Most people do not lose arguments because they lack information. They lose arguments because they do not know when they're using bad reasoning. One of the biggest problems in medicine today is not just misinformation, it's bad reasoning. And bad reasoning becomes dangerous when people mistake it for intelligence. This happens constantly in medicine. It happens with vaccines. It happens with COVID policies. It happens with peptide medicine. It happens with nutrition. It happens with hormones. It happens with regenerative medicine. It happens anytime someone challenges the larger group, the accepted position, or the approved narrative. Now, let's be clear. Not every opposing idea is correct. Not every new idea is brave. Not every controversial idea is genius. Some ideas are wrong. Some ideas can be dangerous. Some ideas deserve criticism. But an idea should be challenged with reasoning, evidence, mechanism, risk analysis, and clinical context. Not emotional attacks, not labels, not group pressure, not character assassination. So let's go through 6 fallacies that destroy medical thinking. Number 1, ad hominem. This is when someone attacks the person instead of the argument. Instead of asking, what is the evidence? What is the mechanism? What is the risk? What is the counter argument? They'll say, you're anti-science. You're a quack. You're dangerous. You're just trying to sell something. You're not qualified. You're one of those people. Now, sometimes a person's credentials, conflicts, or behavior do matter. But attacking the person doesn't automatically disprove the idea. A bad person can make a correct argument. A respected person can make a wrong argument. A doctor can be wrong. A patient can notice something real. A researcher can miss clinical context. An influencer can misuse science. The question is not, do I like the person? The question is the argument true? In peptide medicine, this happens all the time. Someone raises a mechanistic question, a safety concern, or a biological possibility, and instead of engaging the idea, people attack the person. That's not science. That's just social dominance, pretending to be science. Number 2, appeal to authority. This is when someone says, this is true because an expert said it. Or, this is true because a major organization said it. Or, this is true because the guidelines say it. Authority does matter. Expertise matters. Guidelines matter. But authority is not the same as truth. Experts can be limited by available data. Institutions can move slowly. Guidelines can lag behind emerging science. And sometimes the official position is not wrong, it's just incomplete. Medicine needs authority, but medicine also needs questioning, because today's standard of care was once someone's controversial idea. Peptide medicine is a perfect example. If we only wait for institutions to completely understand every emerging peptide pathway, patients will already be years ahead online, asking questions that many clinicians were never trained to answer. So, authority should guide the decision. It should not end the discussion. And number 3, bandwagon fallacy. This is when people assume something is true because most people believe it. Everyone agrees. Everyone says it. The majority accepts it. Therefore, it must be right. But the majority has been wrong many, many times before. In medicine, the majority can be useful because consensus often reflects a body of evidence. But consensus is not immune to bias. Consensus can be shaped by culture, incentives, fear, incomplete data, limited tools, institutional delays, and professional pressure. That does not mean we reject consensus. It means we understand what consensus is or are. Consensus is not a substitute for thinking. It's a starting point that still needs mechanism, evidence, risk, patient context, and outcome tracking. In peptide medicine, the bandwagon fallacy works both ways. One group says everyone online is using this peptide, so it must work. Another group says most doctors do not use it, so it must be nonsense. Both can be weak reasoning. Popularity does not prove safety. Lack of popularity does not prove usefulness. The question is still, what is the biology? What is the evidence? What is the patient pattern? What are the risks? What should be monitored? And number 4, straw man fallacy. This is when someone misrepresents your position, attacks the fake version, and acts like they won. For example, someone says, I have concerns about enforcing medical intervention without enough individual risk discussion. Then the other person responds, so you hate medicine. That is a straw man. Someone says, I think peptides should be evaluated through mechanism, evidence, safety, sourcing, monitoring, and patient context. Then someone responds, so you think everyone should inject random peptides. That's a straw man. Someone says, I think A1C can miss early insulin resistance when insulin is compensating. Then someone says, so you think A1C is useless. That again is straw man. Weak thinkers attack the easiest version of your argument. Strong thinkers will attack the strongest version of your argument. That's the difference. If you have to distort someone's position in order to defeat it, you did not defeat their position. You defeated your own cartoon of it. And number 5, false dichotomy. This is when someone forces a complex issue into only 2 choices. You are either pro-medicine or anti-medicine, pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, evidence-based or quack, conventional or alternative, safe or you're dangerous, good or bad, approved or useless. But medicine is rarely that simple. You can support vaccines and still believe mandates require serious evidence and ethical scrutiny. You can support conventional medicine and still criticize its blind spots. You can believe peptides have potential and still reject reckless peptide use. You can question a protocol without rejecting the entire field. You can respect guidelines and still believe individualized care matters. False dichotomy destroys nuance, and medicine without nuance becomes ideology. In peptide medicine, this is critical. A peptide can have promise and still have risk. A mechanism can be interesting and still lack clinical proof. A therapy can help one patient and harm another. A compound can be useful in one context and inappropriate in another. That is not contraindicated. That is biology. Number 6, appeal to emotion. This is when someone uses fear, shame, anger, or moral pressure instead of evidence. This is very common in medicine. You're dangerous. You're putting people at risk. You're harming patients. You're irresponsible. You're killing people. Sometimes those concerns may be real, but emotional intensity doesn't prove accuracy. Fear can point to risk, but fear is not the risk analysis. Shame can silence people, but shame is not evidence. Anger can mobilize a group, but anger is not mechanism. And moral pressure can force compliance, but moral pressure is not informed consent. In peptide medicine, fear gets used constantly. Some people say every peptide is dangerous. Others say every concern is fear-mongering. Both extremes are lazy. The Praxis standard is different. We ask, what is the mechanism? What is the evidence? What is the risk? What is the patient context? What is the source quality? What is the monitoring plan? What would make us stop? That's not fear. That's clinical reasoning. And this is the deeper point. Medical truth does not become stronger because someone insults you. It does not become stronger because a group agrees. It does not become stronger because an authority repeats it. It does not become stronger because people are afraid. It becomes stronger when it survives questioning, mechanism, evidence, risk, context, monitoring, and outcome. This is how medicine should think. And when opposition is demonized instead of examined, everyone loses. Patients lose because they stop asking questions. Students lose because they learn compliance instead of reasoning. Doctors lose because they become defenders of systems instead of investigators of biology. And medicine loses because progress requires questioning. That does not mean every question is correct. It doesn't mean every critic is honest. It does not mean every new therapy is safe. But it does mean this. A mature medical system should be able to handle hard questions without immediately reaching for labels. Because when a field cannot tolerate questioning, it stops being science and starts becoming belief protection. That is why Praxis Peptide Institute teaches peptide medicine differently. Not hype, not blind rebellion, not blind obedience. Pattern, signal, system, mechanism, evidence, risk, monitoring, decision. Because medicine does not need more people memorizing the majority opinions. Medicine needs people who can think clearly when the majority opinion is incomplete.